All right, now, welcome to the gaming segment of the show, and I'm very excited to bring you today's game because it's a biggie. It's Fallout 4. Now, Fallout, the series, if you didn't know, is a series of post-apocalyptic RPGs. And it started with Fallout 1 and 2 being sort of isometric, classic Western RPGs. But Bethesda took over development starting with Fallout 3 and now Fallout 4. So those people are the same people who did Skyrim. So now it's sort of a first-person shooter sort of RPG as well. So you could sort of think about it like Skyrim with guns. Now, what's the setting of Fallout 4? Fallout 4 is, well, it starts out with a very rare pre-war, pre-apocalypse glimpse of the world in an alternate universe in the year 2077. And without spoiling too much, you basically end up in a post-apocalyptic world where the world has been blown to bits by a ton of nuclear bombs, and it takes place in a post-apocalyptic Boston in the United States. So it's very, very interesting there. It was a sort of a surprise announcement earlier this year because we didn't really see it coming. It was announced well into the year, and it's already out. So it's surrounded by massive amounts of hype, and there's a lot to cover. So I'm going to give you point by point the things that I like about the game, and we're going to jump in and see if it really can live up to all the hype.
Everything can change in an instant, whether or not you're ready.
This wasn't the world I wanted, but it was the one I found myself in.
All right, so I've got 10 points to go over of things that I love about Fallout 4. And I've got a list to refer to here just to make sure I get all the important points across to you. So first up, I want to talk about the engine that the game runs on. Now, if you didn't know Bethesda's work sort of flow, it started with Morrowind back in the day, and then it went to Oblivion, and then Fallout 3 was using Oblivion's engine, or like an upgraded version of the engine. Then it was Skyrim, and then Fallout 4 uses upgraded version of Skyrim's engine. So, of course, it looks better, it feels better, but a nice thing about it using the same but upgraded engine is that modders and creators and content creators can very easily jump into modding Fallout 4. So already we're seeing a lot of interesting and very, very nice mods and custom creator content for the games. That's absolutely amazing. When it comes to the aesthetic of Fallout 4, they made a very interesting design decision. But Fallout 4 is actually very colorful, where it has very bright blues, greens, yellows, which contrast against the wasteland. Point 3, I'm going to talk about combat. Combat in Fallout 4 is a big step up from previous Bethesda games, because combat in Bethesda games has always been rather awkward. It doesn't really feel very nice. But Fallout 4, it's a shooting game, and the shooting aspect and even the melee stuff feels very nice. Melee feels a little weird, but the shooting definitely feels very nice. And combat is sort of split between real-time combat and what they call VATS. Now, previously, VATS, which is a sort of pause and then target sort of system, in Fallout 3, it was completely paused. It freezes the game, and then you can use your character skill rather than your own skills playing to go through combat. But in Fallout 4, real-time combat and VATS have been completely separated and serve completely two different purposes. So real-time combat based on your skill is very good, but VATS, instead of pausing, it actually slows the game down. Now, it does slow down to quite a bit, but things are still moving, so it gives that sense of urgency, and it does make the combat feel a lot more visceral and a lot more, well, stressful at times because you really have to make decisions quicker. But they both have their own purposes and their own bonuses. So you can use real-time combat and VATS in tandem, and that's very, very nice. Now, the next point. Early on in the game, you get power armor. Now, power armor in the Fallout series has always been this sort of iconic suit that you put on. Think Iron Man, but a bit more primitive. And you used to put on a suit, and then you basically get a lot of armor bonuses. But in Fallout 4, it's no longer a suit that you put on. It's actually more of a vehicle, a humanoid vehicle that you step into and you pilot. And it feels absolutely amazing. You just lumber around, stomping around, holding a Gatling gun and just mowing down your enemies, and it's absolutely amazing. And if you jump off a cliff and land somewhere further down, it actually lands and has an impact into the ground, and it feels amazing. Next point. customization and crafting in the game. Almost everything in the game in Fallout 4 can be customized. Your weapons, you can mod them, you can mod the handles, mod the barrels, mod everything about it, even put a spike on the end so you can stab people. Your armor can be customized, even the power armor can be customized piece by piece. And you can even build buildings in the game, because that leads to settlements, which is the next point. Settlements are where you can collect a bunch of people and have them grouped together in a town or something. You build them beds, you build farms, you get water sources, you help them survive, and it adds this whole other survival aspect to Fallout 4. And of course, these settlements lead to some of the most interesting characters in the game, and throughout the Wasteland, you will encounter very, very unique characters with very interesting backstories. And some of these characters can actually become your companions. Now, companions, they follow you around the Wasteland, and you can get a robot companion, there's a dog companion, and there's various people out there as well. And each companion judges your actions. So the karma system in the game is that when you, let's say you have a very clean, very good, very nice companion, if you take drugs in the game, then they don't like you doing that, and you actually ruin your relationship with this person. But if you build your relationship with each person, then you actually unlock their own storylines and their own unique quest lines, which lead to their own rewards. So that's very, very nice. Finally, I do want to show off one last thing, which is a companion app which goes with the game. Now, this app, it's sort of to emulate the Pip-Boy. In the game, you have a wrist device, which is a Pip-Boy. And if you've actually bought the collector's edition, you actually get a mounting device where you could sort of mount your phone onto your wrist. But what this does is, on your Android or iPhone, you can control your inventory, your status, and all sorts of things on your mobile device. So this unlocks a few interesting things. So for example, if you're playing on the console, because the game is available on the console, you could have your tablet on your lap and just sort of control your inventory on a second screen, the second screen experience, because everything you press on this app will link to what's going on in the game. So if you want to change your weapon or heal yourself or use any sort of ability, you can just press it on the app and it'll take place in the game. And that is absolutely amazing.
Protect the people at a minute's notice and decide our own future.
This campaign will be costly, but in the end, we will be saving humankind from its worst enemy, itself.
All right, so is Fallout 4 for you? Well, first of all, it's not all rainbows and butterflies. There are, of course, some problems with the game. So first of all, I mentioned the voice acting is very good. Well, the dialogue is actually rather limited. In old Bethesda games, you would have a lot of dialogue options to choose from, but now you've only limited to 4 at a time. So if you're into a lot of heavy dialogue and narrative stuff, you might feel a bit limited on that. And also the lip syncing feels a bit off. I mean, it's better than previous games, but it still feels and looks a bit weird. Then the interface. Now, Bethesda, ever since Skyrim really, the interface on a PC can feel very awkward, especially when you're using a mouse of any sort, because it's sort of more apt for a controller, the interface. So even some of the buttons don't have mouse over feedback and stuff like that. So it's a bit weird there. The storyline, although you start out in the Wasteland and you start with, without spoiling anything, you start with a very urgent mission. Because there's so many distractions in the game, you can actually just sort of not follow that urgent mission. So there's that. And finally, I've noticed a few performance issues. Now, I'm playing on my desktop at home most of the time, and for the most part, it's holding solid 60 frames a second. But at random times, the performance will just drop. It just tanks, and I'll get like half the amount of frames that I'll usually be getting. So performance can be an issue. Hopefully they patch that over time, but check some reviews to see if they actually manage to fix that. So is Fallout 4 for you? Well, it's about 200 ringgit, whichever platform you buy it on. It's on the PC, PS4, and Xbox One, so it's all of that. And I've been having an absolute blast with it. But some people are sort of saying like it's a very good game, but it's not a very Fallout game. It feels a lot like Fallout 3, but they are going in a very different direction compared to the classic Fallout. So if you're a fan of the classic Fallout 1, Fallout 2, isometric classic Western RPG style, well, maybe there's another game out there called Wasteland 2. You might want to check that out. Wasteland 2 is sort of in that vein. But if you loved Skyrim, if you loved Fallout 3, you should absolutely love Fallout 4. And either way, I've been having an absolute blast, and I love it, yeah.
So where is it, huh? This institute. How do I get there?
Let's go, boy.
So before I go, I want to thank our wonderful hosts here, which is the Cartel Coffee Shop at section 15 in Bandarbaru, Bangi. They're very, very stylish. The decor is absolutely amazing. I had a coffee earlier and it tastes fantastic and the food looks great too. So definitely check them out.
So the episode is at an end. We certainly hope that you've enjoyed what we've shown you today. I've had a lot of fun and I can't wait for the start of the next season. We're gonna go on a little break for a couple of weeks. When we come back, more gadgets in store for you and of course the latest news. My name is Adam Carruthers and we'll see you next time.